demands for federalism in Nigeria, what Nigerians prefer to call true federalism. The VAT controversy has brought up this issue again to the front burner. Colonel Nyiam, you've written on federalism and you've said it's inevitable. With the VAT controversy, how has that conversation, or how can it really change the narratives of the demand for true federalism in the country?
Thank you. I didn't hear you well.
Can you hear me?
Go on, repeat, please.
You've written on true federalism and you've said that it's inevitable in Nigeria. How is the current push for the VAT, especially in the aspect of fiscal federalism, going to advance that conversation?
Thank you very much. I'll begin by saying that let me read what I wrote about VAT. In 2012, I wrote that fiscal emphasis on contribution to the distributive pool rather than the ongoing overemphasis on sharing what one has not earned. It is fraudulent stranglehold of the Abuja power and the caretakers of their vested interests. And those who are most affected, I wrote, were from Niger Delta and Lagos State. This was written in 2012. I went further to say there are the freedom and incentives for a segregating region to develop it at its own pace. Thus, the collection of value-added tax, sales tax, stamp duties should be the responsibility of the segregating region. This will serve to be the means by which the geopolitical economic region or state invests in its human capital and infrastructure development to attract inward investment. The point being made here is that, for example, Lagos is the financial hub, and for Lagos to compete with Johannesburg, to compete with Cairo, Lagos has to have the money to invest in its infrastructure. And so doing, Lagos would now be able to attract more business for Nigeria. So the idea, this selfish way of looking at Nigeria, that he who lays the goods that lays the golden eggs should be deprived of what they do. I would have thought that the governor of Katsina, for example, should want Lagos to be more productive compared to any other city in Africa, so as to attract business into Lagos. What do we see? What we see is what I call, there is a substitution of what I call stratagem for strategy. Stratagem is defined as clever or plotting to deceive others. That's what clearly. What I hear from the governors of Katsina, for example, is a clear case being clever by half. You do not produce something and you want to earn what you don't produce. Is that moral? That I would have thought is, in fact, is what is forbidden, to use the word haram in Islam. The Islam defines it clearly. If I may read what it says. It says things like stratagem are what are called dansaya, dunya, wiria, which means plotting attributed to worldly ambition or desires, sacred planning of something detrimental to the larger community. VAT, the worldwide, is a sales tax. Lagos cannot continue to be deprived. After all, if Katsina, you go to Katsina, people come and see. There's so many Katsina people all over where I live in Lagos who are trying to earn a living. So the better the Lagos is, the better it is for Katsina indigents in Lagos. And this applies to any other northwestern state. The whole point here is this. We need to move away from sharing national cake to wealth creation, which is part of what VAT is all about. So I am fully in support and do praise the governor of Rivers State, Wike, for stopping the mumu of many states in the south and the middle belt. We cannot be deprived of our own means of livelihood. You say, for example, that you don't want alcohol, and then you want the VAT from alcohol. And you try to carry out some fake publicity that, alcohol doesn't only attract 3% of GDP. I mean, what a rubbish. The issue is stop paying for what you did. It is clearly stealing. And I'm happy the law courts have come on and have taken this position, which is justifiable and justiciable. You cannot earn what you didn't benefit from what you didn't work for.
Colonel Nyiam, let me refer you back to the issue you raised on wealth creation. The question some people are asking is, who's stopping Katsina State from collecting VAT in their own states? And just like you rightly pointed out, a state like Lagos State needs to invest, to plow back money into infrastructural development in that state so it can continue to attract investment. Now, let's look at why is it that the northern part of the country does not seem to be able to create its own wealth, because we know that it has a huge deposit of mineral resources that neither the federal government nor the state government have been able to tap to create wealth for that region?
Well, yeah, you are very, your question actually, or your response, it has made the point. For a long time, when I was a young student in the UK, there was what is called social welfare. People were on people on social welfare. They became dependent. And when they became dependent, people were not doing work. The youth were taken to drugs. So many. There was Colonel Margaret Thatcher came in with the concept of taking away people from being dependent. I think people in certain parts of this country have become so over-dependent on government that they've become lazy. I was a young student in secondary school in Zaria, and I will tell you this. I found, living in the south and going to Zaria, that the Hausas were better farmers than my own people. The farmers, you see a big land farm near my school, you will see 2 or 3 people farming there, using donkey to pull the carts, using scientific way of irrigation. The Hausas were hardworking in the 60s. Now, they now have been spoiled by their elites who prefer to depend on money made in the south and the middle belt. I use the word deliberately because when people conveniently use the word north, it shares a thing. While creation is going on in the middle belt, they're producing the major of the food we eat. In fact, if you go to middle belt, go to Nasarawa or go to Benue. In fact, in Nasarawa, you would see that the farmer who is farming behind is an Egoin man. The person who is intermediate selling is the Fulani man selling. So the real workers, the real farmers, that is the Egon man in Nasarawa or in Benue or the Jukun, is not benefiting. So when people use this word, the North, it's always the word is used, the North. When some people want to use that word to claim to use other people. What we are saying is that people of the Northwest need to get up their ass and start being resourceful. I'm not alone. I'm sure the Sultan and one or two people have criticized their leadership. They need to wake up and start. For example, the double standard they want to encourage. Zamfara, right now, has been making money from gold for quite a while. No, and they don't share the money to anybody. And yet, like the journalist said earlier, Ogegbe said earlier, you have Port Harcourt. Port Harcourt is being killed by pollution, and there are no means for remedy. I no wonder the Governor Wike is right. So every governor has a right to protect his own people, especially when it's being shortchanged by other people. And by the way, the federal inland revenue should know that it is for the federation. It is not for the federal government only. And so they should also welcome this practice of each state keeping its own VAT. And I'm happy the court has ruled. And I do hope that those don't put pressure on the judiciary and use their cronies in the judiciary to try and subvert the course of justice which has been started by the High Court judge ruling.
All right. Colonel Nyiam, this is not a matter that affects just Katsina State or states in the north alone. I mean, even states in the south are also affected or will also be affected if, at the end of the day, the position of the law is affirmed by the Supreme Court to the effect that states should collect VAT. Ebonyi State, for instance, the governor had come out to say that he will not support states collecting and distributing VAT because it will not be in the best interest of the state. Ebonyi State is one of the states at the very lower level of the ladder in terms of IGR across the country. Not just Ebonyi State, even Bayelsa State in the south of the country is also facing a similar crisis. So this is not just a problem affecting northern states alone. How then do you resolve this? Do you think that the southern states, as they've taken a position which they did in Enugu last week, can actually push this forward in unanimity, even with the contradictions within the southern states in terms of what they're able to ramp up in terms of their IGR and even the VAT as well?
You know, first of all, let me you just mentioned Ebonyi State. I'm sorry to put it this way. Certain leaders in some parts of the South are playing politics at the expense of the future of their own citizens. Ebonyi State, it used to be a division of my province, Ogoja. And the Ebonyi people are the most hardworking people. And if you know, in Lagos and in Abuja, most of the street hawkers who sell books, who sell everything during the traffic, over 70% of them are from Ebonyi State. So, if Ebonyi State citizens are in Lagos earning a living and sending money back to Ebonyi, why would a governor try to decry Lagos State being a better in its business to attract more people and create more wealth? So I would say Governor Omahi is, as well known, he's always thinking of his own future. And I say this because he's typical of what the American economist Thomas Sowell said, if I may quote, he says, the act of making yourself desires seem like national interest. Enough of it from those leaders. And as for Bayelsa, I'll be surprised. Wow, that come from Bayelsa, because Bayelsans elite, many of them live in Port Harcourt. Many of them have their investment in Port Harcourt. So that talk doesn't come, it does not represent the average Bayelsa or the Niger Delta. No, the southern people.
All right. How then do you do these states? What can be done to help these states? Because one of the arguments put forward by Governor Masari is that most of the goods produced in Lagos are consumed in other states such as Katsina. And he has also said that most of the raw materials that is used by companies and industries in Lagos are produced by states in the north of the country. How then can these states, recalibrate their productive forces to align properly in such a way that they can actually be centers of consumption and centers of huge derivation of VAT for their own state?
Yeah, basically, you see, I'm happy Governor Wike has made us to start to think. It then means that the governors, like Governor of Katsina, needs to put on his thinking cap and try to see how high he can generate VAT from whatever anybody is going to take away from Katsina. He needs to put on his thinking cap. And if he now overcharges it and make it unviable to buy from Katsina, he will suffer the consequences. So the point is that, you see, once you allow the economy to function optimally, a lot of distortions we are having in the system would be eased. The North, under Ahmadu Bello, when I was a young boy, Ahmadu Bello was a thriving economy because Ahmadu Bello was a strategist. He was a thinker. He was a visionary. What we now have are most of the political elite. I mean, for example, for years in Zamfara, all they do, they live in Abuja, they go and share money and come back to Abuja. So, this thing that Governor Wike has started is to make sure that governors start doing their work. And the North is rich, very rich with resources. And by the way, an average Hausa man, if I may use, who reflect, is a very hard-working man. Just look around you. When you see the shoe cleaner around us here, or when you see the scavengers, how diligent they are in their work. So it isn't that Talakawa does not work hard. What is been is that it's the lack of leadership in the Northwest especially. And this is why, in spite of them being in power, they are the poorest. And this is why when they talk of, the North has to rule, how to rule. What is the evidence? Well, how does that translate to improve the life of the Talakawa in Kanu or in Katsina? Because the elite is just been, it is like the economists have just put it said. People mix up their own self-desire and use it to their activities, not an interest. It is for their own selfish interest.
Colonel, over the weekend, on Sunday to be precise, the governor of Ondo State did say that the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, that's gone to the National Assembly and asked for the amendment in the VAT law. And he has said that it will be squashed at the state houses of assembly. Let's speak to the FIRS in this matter. The FIRS has continued to fight this battle. Where, in your opinion, should the line be drawn? How should the FIRS rather be responding to this constitutional matter of VAT collection?
Thank you very much. You see, the whole thing, if you look, is in a plot. Like I said earlier, first of all, it is to hijack the key strategic appointments in Nigeria. Recently, you would have seen that the board of the NNPC is being created, but the real power base, which is the managing director and the chief financial officers, where are they from? From virtually one ethnic group. While all the rest who are supposedly to be chairmen and board members, they're just there to be, what they do is they're giving their allowances and made comfortable, while those who, so the fact that you keep on putting people strategically in key positions so that you can serve the interest of an ethnic national group within Nigeria is the biggest problem. If the Federal Inland Revenue were serving the Nigerian Federation and not answering and becoming a spearhead to the federal government, which is, and then at the expense of the state, they should not have gone to court. They are supposed to be regulators. And if, as regulators, if the law is taking its course, why would a regulator be questioning the law?
Yeah, because
by going to use National Assembly. This is the double standard. And by the way, these are the double standards that create aggravation, that lead to discontent, and eventually lead to insurgency in some parts of the country. It's a high time people know that you cannot fool the people all the time. And by the way, you see, people should not be fooled by somebody always use the word, oh, northern interest, northern interest. There's nothing. Because the northern interest has not served the average Hausa man well. The average Hausa man is more deprived than any other person in the country. The average Hausa man is suffering from insecurity than any other part of the country. So people should stop using the I'm doing this for the northern interest. It is not northern interest. They are doing it for their own selfish interest. And most of the money, by the way...
all right.